G'day guys, welcome back to Jetski's garage. This time, we're not in the shed. I'm going to go inside into my engine room. So, as the title of the video says, going to be putting together my Cleveland that I pulled out of my coupe. Now, we've spent plenty of time out here in the shed, coupe, F truck in the background, but I'm going to be going inside, which is where I build all my engines in my engine room. So, this is pretty much it. So in here I'm able to be a bit more controlled with dust, and I'll try and keep the dogs out best I can, but they get excited. So this way I'm able to, not build it in the shed, not worry about dust and all that sort of crap. Got an aircon obviously, so on those fairly hot, inside, better be a gentleman. On those hot summer days and when it's cold as well, I can run that onto heat too, but we'll put a heater in here. But yeah, on those really hot stinking days here in Adelaide, it gets up to 40 degrees on a weekend, I can still come in here, chuck the aircon on and build an engine, do some cylinder heads or whatever I need to do. So this is my Clevo out of the coupe, which I'll be assembling now. This is not going to be a step-by-step Clevo build because you can't just do it in a quick 20-minute video. I will go through a few basic things just to help people out, to understand Cleveland's oiling issues and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, everyone has different ways of doing things, so don't by any means think that what I say is gospel. Don't have to do it my way, don't have to argue with me. Built a fair few Clevos, other people have built Clevos that I've learnt off and their way and had no issues. Hell, the Clevelands ran without doing any of the fixes, and still ran. So just keep that in mind. So I thought I'd bring you guys in here a little bit more. Keep a few items as well, oil pumps, roller rockers. So this is where I try and keep my better parts, so they're not out in the shed either, not getting dusty and all that sort of thing too. Bolt kit, this is a good idea if people are doing this a bit. So yeah, just to make it easy, water pump bolts, thermostat, intake manifold bolts, exhaust manifold bolts, just stuff like that. It makes it a bit easier if I'm missing a bolt or whatever. Rocker covers, I can just go in, grab a rocker cover bolt. There's a bit of ARP stuff in there as well. But these are all my clean parts. So I've cleaned that, bag it, that's my camshaft. A few other parts I still need to clean in that obviously, but I'm going to start getting my bottom end in. Hope it helps a few of you out, and yeah, hope you enjoy this side of things. A couple of people have asked to start seeing a bit of engine building. Let me know if there's anything else you want to know specifically, any questions that I can sort of go through and yeah, try and help you guys out. There are plenty of videos out there for dialing cams and that sort of thing, so I'm not going to go into too much tutorial stuff. But yeah, just a couple of other things like I said, oiling and stuff like that, just to help people out and why things get done on Cleveland where their issues are. So, alright, let's get into it. One of the first things you got to do when you're going to be building an engine is work out what you want. A lot of people ask fair few questions, what camshaft should I do and what should I do, and buying heads and stuff like that. And ultimately, you need to work out what you want out of your engine. Be realistic. You want to make sure that you're not going to go and revisit your engine 100 times. I've seen a mate do it where he just started off, he had a S15 Sylvia, wrong sort of car for this sort of stuff, but the principle's still the same. He bought bigger injectors, now I've got bigger turbo, then he changed his camshafts, then he had to go bigger valve springs, and just so on. So he's constantly revisiting this car, and he spent near excess of 100 grand on this car. By just double handling everything. So that was sort of the reason why with this I just did a 351 mild, because I knew I was going to go bigger and better, and that's why I've got the 427. I didn't bother putting a 393 kit in here, I didn't bother alloy heading this or going too overboard with this, just kept it basic. Still a good bit of fun, stay under killer, still good for the street, and got the coupe moving, have a fun out of it. but yeah, I was never going to spend any more on this, not doing EFI on this or anything like that. So, but now that's why I'll build this one on, move it on, and then invest back into my 427 and just get it done the first time. So work out what you want out of your engine, your end goal and stuff like that. From there, you'll sort of pick your camshaft. A lot of people say buy your camshaft, build your engine around that, because depending on your camshaft, depends on what heads you're going to buy, depends on then pistons and all that sort of stuff too. So you need to work out your comp and what your camshaft is going to do for you. Drivability, fuel system and all that sort of stuff. So that's your first bit. So do your research, work out what you want. Then from there, collect your parts and then yeah, start building. But as I got here, I got my block. This has been zero decked, and what that references to is that's your camshaft tunnel there. This is your crankshaft. Obviously, I don't have my caps on, so there'll be a cap that comes here from the center of this circle to the face of the deck. That's your deck there where your cylinder head goes on. From factory, that measurement to there to then the other side isn't always exactly the same. So when they say zero decking, they machine the deck on that side and this side to get them exactly perfectly the same amount of distance in your V. So that obviously helps with making sure that your compression is going to be the same on each side. So if this side's a little bit higher, then you're going to get a bit less compression on that side as compared to this side. Now, it could be a couple of there, could be vaguely different. If anyone's seen sonic testing of a Cleveland, yeah, people joke around that it was a Friday pour when they poured the casting of it, because the thickness of the bores will sort of favour one side. And another one, every engine I build always gets sonic tested, especially Cleveland's, because they have limited life on their bore thickness. They get an ultrasonic tooling that sort of goes on the wall there like that, and that's your water port, that's a water port, and that's a water port. So what they're doing is they're going top and bottom side thicknesses, and then measuring to see how thick that wall is, because depending on how thick the wall is depends on how much power you're going to put through it, and if it's worth oversizing. Generally you don't take a Cleveland over 30 thou. You can go to 40, but you wouldn't really do it as a hottie or anything like that. Got this one sonic tested, come up good. You want to focus on the thickness being on your thrust side, and the top and bottom is the thrust side, because when your piston conrod works, it's thrusting back and forward like that. So they're going to be your load sides as opposed to your side wall. Yeah. Don't know if you've noticed yet, but I have done a little bit of cleaning up in the top here. Biggest with Cleveland's is their oiling. So you want to get the oil back to the sump, and that's the issue. They flood the top end, and the oiling system, the way the galleries are, in a way they favour the camshaft over the crankshaft, which is another reason why it'll come up to the top and then flood the top end too, plus drainage issues and stuff like that. That's why people will do like a balancing hose, and again, there's many different ways you can do it. Pretty much they're all right answers, really. Depends on what way you want to look at it. Some of them I think are band-aids and not actually fixing the issue. And then, yeah, some are easier, some are cheaper. Depends what you want to do, but as long as your oiling system is good at the end of it, that's all that really matters. So to help with the drainage, because this is all cast in here, generally you have some high edges on your holes. So you sort of just clean the holes up a bit and allows the oil to drain back a bit better. I don't polish, just lightly mark so that oil's able to escape from here easier and come down. Another issue with it being cast is with the older ones, people don't do the oil changes properly, so sludge builds up on the cast and stops stuff draining back. But that's only a small modification, but it all helps in the end of it. On the bottom side, to help with oiling, I'm running a solid camshaft, so I put in oil restrictors. Moroso do a kit, and what you're doing is in that gallery there, it gets tapped out with a thread, if you can sort of see there, and then you can see it's only a small hole inside. So that restricts oil to the camshaft and slows that down and allows you to get better pressure across your crankshaft. Now, typically with the oiling issues, they generally spin the rear bearings here for your last two cylinders. Now, your oil pump is here at the front, so you're always going to get better oil pressure at the front. One reason why they have an oil pressure sensor at the back behind the valley there, and that is also the other reason why you see that kit that runs from the side there. Yeah, from that plug there, they run a line up and to the back to help stabilize the system. So basically it's robbing pressure from the front and supplying direct to the back, because for it to build pressure at the back there, generally it's got to go through all these bearings and then finally gets to the back there. So that's why you'll get pressure loss across the system. So that's why that other line comes in. Again, does the trick, but again, I think it's a bit of a band-aid sort of thing. So the other thing is when they rev lots, pushes all the oil to the top. Some people do a high volume oil pump. It's my opinion, it's not the answer. Makes it worse. High volume oil pump's going to push even more oil to the top of your engine, and that's going to flood this top area here, which is why I sort of clean up in there, get things draining back. We also clean up, that's an oil drain hole from your cylinder head, so you want to get your cylinder heads returning the oil as well, so it'll fill valley and also come up into your cylinder head and not return from your cylinder head properly. So there's also some oil drain holes there and there. It's good to just open them up a little bit, back one not so much, but you use your cylinder head gasket, and that's another tip. One's opened up a bit as well. Another thing that has been done to this engine is it's been blueprinted and balanced. So what blueprinting means is that with your crankshaft, you've got your journals, and as we know, we talk about 10 thou, 20 thou, 30 thou, if that crankshaft has been ground. To give yourself the optimal oil clearances, you put the bearings in, measure the bearings, and you grind the crankshaft to suit the bearings. That's what blueprinting is all about. You can go the other way, but if your oil clearances are off and not perfect to what you want, and they're pretty fine with the clearances what they go to, and depending on your build, we'll change your clearances a bit too. If you're doing a mild compared to a high performance, you want a bit bigger clearances than low performance. So you install all your bearings, measure them, and then grind the crankshaft to suit. Balancing is all about getting the same weight distribution throughout your rotating assembly. So what they'll do is, as you can see, that's been ground down, and so that's getting the right balance. So all my rotating assembly has been balanced. They will balance the pistons, they will balance the rods and caps, and they will balance the crankshaft. So as you can see there, Chris Milton's is the place that I go to here in Adelaide. They've never let me down. They've been fantastic. Really good guys down there. I've been to other shops, so it's not just been biased. I've actually gone around to different shops here in Adelaide. I've had some shops stuff up a crankshaft twice, and that's the Hardy engine. So I'm not going to name names, but yeah, I recommend Chris Milton's. They've always been great, always helped me out. Nice, good family business. Whereas other shops I've gone to have not had the same customer service and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to know a shop, recommend Chris Milton's. Tell them Jetski sent you. Happy days, they'll look after you. Now, as I was saying with the blueprinting, this is why I've marked my bearings out and numbered them. You can see 8, 7, 6. So I'll get all the rods right. So rod cap and rod, they have to go in the rod. They're going in the cap. And block side, cap side, you can only go one way with those bearings anyway, but yeah, they're numbered as well. So all of this is going back the right way it should be. Rings still on there. You gap your rings when you put them in. So before the rings go onto your pistons, chuck them in, and you'll file them down using a special piston ring gapper, and that'll help with obviously your compression, oil usage and stuff like that. And there is formulas and stuff like that to follow as well, but yeah, that's, like I said, I'm not going to do step by step, explain every single thing on how to build an engine. But yeah, that is something you can do. That knowledge is readily available through Google, or talk to an engine builder yourself. Sometimes they might share those sort of information with you. Other than that, I reckon we're pretty well ready to start putting that crankshaft in. Gonna be chucking the pistons in now. Just gonna go over a couple of things of what's pretty common with these ones. So what I've got here is I've got some Teflon side skirt pistons. Basically that's gonna be better wear on the cylinder bore than a standard piston, so it's a good little addition. Very common thing is to do ARP rod bolts. Now the standard rod bolts seem to be a bit of a weak point. Haven't found out the hard way, but that is probably the most common thing you're going to see with a rotating assembly if you're going to start chasing a bit of power, is ARP rod bolts. So these have all been balanced as well, the rods and the pistons. So if we go in a bit closer, you can see that that's been machined and ground down, so that's all the weight of the con rods are the same. Piston rings, obviously most people, general knowledge, know that however you set the piston rings, you orientate the gap of each ring. So have, say, at 12 o'clock, have the top gap of the top one, and then at, say, 5 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock, something like that. But you just want to basically space out the gaps of each piston ring set. Other than that, it's not too much more to really talk about the rods and pistons, but yeah, these are just a good quality cast piston. Not the best, but not cheap crap either. So I think it's better to spend that extra bit of money for the Teflon coated side skirts, because it's going to keep pistons lasting longer, and also the bores, which Teflon's obviously on the thrust side, so that's where your most load is, just because of the way that they sort of move. If it's not waving, that's my attempted movement of the rods. So yeah, alright, well, I'm going to start loading them in now. Most people have seen how the oil pump works on these things. The oil pump is there like that. Shaft will come in there. I've got a ARP. Grab that one. I upgrade my oil pump shafts, so you can see there from where the actual drive is to the meat of it. It's actually quite thick. That's an ARP upgraded oil pump drive shaft. The camshaft is driven off the crankshaft with the timing chain. So I'll be putting the cam in now, and then timing gear will go on. There's a chain that goes around that. That chain off the crankshaft will spin the camshaft, and the camshaft has a gear. on that gear will mesh with your distributor, and then the guts of the distributor will run onto that shaft, which will then run down to your oil pump. So that's why it's important to make sure that your distributor is good. Your gear on your distributor is strong. Have seen that pin on some other cheaper distributors, ProFlow. Thought I'd give it a go in a car that I used to have. Ended up selling it on, and yeah, guy was actually pretty good. He messaged me and said that it stopped running on him, and found out that it was the split pin in the distributor. So nothing I could really know was going to happen or anything like that. But other than that, I'm pretty sure that distributor is still running, and all pretty happy days. So yes, considering your distributor runs the heart of your engine and the lifeblood, make sure you double check those sort of things and make sure your distributor is set up correctly. Ended up skipping forward a little bit, had my mate Melville come over, surprised me with a visit. Didn't get much done, plenty of chit chat, so here we back are next afternoon. Install the camshaft, timing chain and gear is on. Now this section I just wanted to explain a little bit more on camshaft timing. Both of your timings are in relation to the crankshaft, or top dead center of piston number 1. Camshaft can have a difference in power. There are plenty of dyno comparisons out there. Engine Master's a good one on Motor Trend. They do one whether you're trying to gain more horsepower and more torque. Generally for a street engine, people will say do your camshaft timing at 2 degrees advance. This one will be set 2 degrees advance. The one I did for Harry's, that was 2 degrees advance. Now, originally when I had this in the coupe, I wanted to experiment a little bit myself, and I did my camshaft timing at 2 degrees retarded. So I was trying to see if I would get a bit of a higher number, and it's great because this engine and Harry's engine are pretty much identical, both built by myself, so it was a really good comparison to see. My engine made less power, so Harry's made more, so I'm going to put this back 2 degrees advance and run it at 2 degrees advance, and then I think I'll be happier. I'm going to get it re-dynoed and yeah, just see what happens with it. Might perform a bit better again. I do have a little bit more port work than what Harry does. Not much at all, just a little, maybe another hour over the 2 heads sort of thing. So yeah, not really much, but yeah, might make a bit of a difference. So we'll see how it goes. So when you're installing your timing chain set, you've got different slots on your crankshaft gear. They'll have like +2, +4, or 0 and stuff like that. So 0 is setting what? 0 degrees for the camshaft. +2, +4 is obviously advanced, 2 and 4 degrees, and vice versa for the negative or R6 or 4 or whatever you're going to go to. Now, that's where it becomes important to dial in your camshaft. So when I dialed the cam in, it was actually 2 degrees retarded at 0. So therefore I have to advance it 4 degrees to get 2 degrees advance, if that makes sense. So originally I set this at the 0, which gave me 2 degrees retarded, which I don't know if that's a bit of a sneaky thing for Crane to do. Maybe they're purposely doing it 2 degrees. So when you 0 it, it's on the retarded side, so it gives you a bit of a better number, maybe. But anyway, when you dial in your camshaft, go 2 degrees advance. The extra 2 degrees advance will take up any timing chain slack and sort of stretch that comes out of it. So yeah, that's generally the consensus of what you do, and then it will come back to a 0 point. So I've had to go 4 degrees advance to get the 2 degrees advance, which will then sort of come back to a 0. So yeah, that's that one. All right, so move on to the timing cover now. Oil pump is on. That's a pretty simple, basic thing. So I'll get the timing cover on, do my front gear, front hub, dampener, and get a water pump on, and then I can start putting some cylinder heads on and a sump, start getting this thing closed up. Timing cover's all on, dampener's on, oil pump, as we already know, is on. Gonna put the sump on next. Now, a couple of the steps that might be able to be some pointers and some tips for you guys. When I put the timing cover on, then water pumps are there and stuff like that, things get pitted. As you know, I don't like silicon. Silicon does have its places, but it's not everywhere, so don't do it everywhere. I use something like this. So it's just Loctite, flexible gasket maker. Another one that's also known as is, I'll go in my consumables drawer, 515. So that is just a good spot just to help take up the small imperfections and stuff like that. I think it's just a lot nicer. Doesn't go into your engine as big blobs and run the risk of clogging up your screen. Pulled plenty of engines apart that have had, you know, front timing chain done or something like that. People just slather on the silicone and always find it in the screens on your oil pickup. So don't do it. If you do it, just little bits, okay? So yeah, gonna put the sump on now. Yes, on the joins here on the timing cover, I'm gonna end up putting a little bit of silicone there, a very light bead up on the top here, and then that'll help that seal and not get any leaks. The sump I'm using is a what do they call it? A high volume sump. Has baffling plates inside, so that helps with oil slosh and stuff like that, and aerating of the oil and stuff like that. And yeah, it just really helps control it and stops it splashing back up onto the crankshaft and that, which helps with power, helps with oil starvation and cavitating and whatnot. So yeah, that's just bigger sump. Water on there, but it's not a bad quality one. This is actually one pretty good, pretty happy with it. I do want to try a Pro Comp one at one point, but yes, that'll probably be on another engine that I just try and stuff around with myself. So, alright, well, this is just about ready, so I'm gonna get the sump on so I can set over tea, and then I'll come back in and start tying up some of the other things.